So YouTube recently released an alternative to YouTube Rewind that is basically just Spotify Wrapped. I say recently, I don't remember it being a thing in 2024. Honestly, it made sense as a thing to do, I found it interesting, but at the same time, I was personally shocked by what this revealed about my viewing habits this past year. So the first thing you find out are your favorite channels and how many channels you watched. Apparently I watched 10 times more channels than the average YouTube viewer. That makes sense as I do support a lot of small channels and I have a lot of loyalty to channels that I enjoy that the algorithm has since abandoned. But yeah, as for the top 5, that's interesting. First thing you might notice is that while my own channel is in my top 5, it didn't make the top spot. That's a bit strange considering I watch all of my own videos at least once and usually at least one other time after that just so I can make sure there isn't anything that I said I would link in the description that I forgot to or anything like that. Also, I'm going to watch every single video I uploaded this year again so that I can make my own 2025 recap video where I will briefly explain the substance of every single video I uploaded this year. So, what beat out my own channel in terms of viewing? Well, just above me is Tamago2474, which makes sense because I recently said to my wife that he is my favorite all-time YouTuber right now. If there was a YouTuber I would most want to emulate in terms of the quality and the vibe of their content, it would be Tamago2474, so it does make sense that the channel that I would prefer my own channel to be like actually beat out my own channel in terms of views from me. The really weird one though is the top spot. Lindy Beige is my favorite channel, placing me in the top 0.2% of his viewers. But this gets at something I've heard more and more people talking about recently, sleep views. See, I like to listen to stuff when I'm trying to go to sleep. It helps to shut down my own thoughts by listening to someone else talking. I actually mostly listen to this guided meditation that I downloaded, so I would always have that handy.
Lights of the outside world give way, becoming the lightening sensation of those parts of your inside awareness.
But sometimes when I'm really anxious, I need to be listening to something a little bit more interesting, a little bit more topical than a guided sleep meditation. You know, a guy telling me, relax your body, drift off into a calm sleep, isn't going to help me when I'm wide awake and my mind is racing. So in that situation, I like to listen to someone talking about a specific topic. And apparently, the person I enjoy most of all doing that is Lindy Beige. It makes sense, he has this cozy vibe, his voice is quite calming, and he tends to talk about topics at that intersection between interesting but also kind of boring, that's perfect for lulling you off to sleep. But apparently that lullaby appeal pays dividends and has made this guy my single most viewed channel of all of 2025, even though I don't think I've ever been conscious for the end of one of his videos. Apparently there are some people who use my videos to fall asleep to, which is nice, but I must confess I don't think I'm getting enough views to not be a little bit annoyed to find out that a reasonable proportion of those views are from people who aren't even awake. Nonetheless, I have considered leaning into this reality, and with my gaming channel I recently started, I do plan to at some point play some nice relaxing calm games and speak in a soft, reassuring tone so that people can listen to that and be drifted off to sleep. As for Adam Ragusa and Vsauce being in the 4th and 5th spot, I was also pretty surprised by that until I remembered that I have cooked some Adam Ragusa recipes before, and typically when I've done that, I've just sat there replaying the video for the entire time that I've been working on the recipe. I guess to me, one reality that makes these surprises not so surprising is that a single short binging session can really skew your results for the year, even if it only lasted a few days. You know, when I discover a new channel I really like, I typically end up watching their entire back catalogue in a very short amount of time. And that's how my top interest of 2025 in terms of content ended up being not politics, not history, not religion or philosophy or anything else you might imagine it would be. Nope, my top interest of 2025 was exploring Sims challenges. Yep, that's right, challenges in the video game The Sims. And that's because a few months ago I found this channel called Call Me Kevin, and he has done loads of videos where he has these challenges in these absurd scenarios in The Sims, and those videos are really funny. Thing is though, the majority of months this year, I haven't watched any of his videos at all. But because when I first found him, I watched a whole load of his videos because they were very bingeable, means that ended up being my top category of content for the entire year. So that's why he ended up being my top channel in the gaming niche, although interestingly, also making that list was this channel called Biffa. And that's because I was briefly into the online game Territorial.io, and he was a very small YouTuber doing Let's Plays of those. So I watched quite a few of his videos just to support him, because I found the content quite interesting. Apparently I watched enough of his videos to make him my third favorite gaming channel, even though I didn't even recognize who he was at first. Anyway, then we get to my favorite slide where we're told that apparently I watched a lot of videos about managing money, saving, and making smart financial decisions. Now, the reason I find it so funny is because, as you can see, my top channel in this regard was a guy called John Holstead. If you've seen my recent video on my favorite YouTube lolcow, you'll already know why this is funny, and if you haven't seen that video, you can probably still guess what I'm about to say. John Holstead is a channel I find really entertaining entirely because he started a challenge where his goal was to earn $100,000 as quickly as possible, and he ended up getting $26,000 in debt. So yeah, being told that I watch content about how to make smart financial decisions, and the top example given of that content was this guy, that genuinely made me laugh out loud. Now, speaking of financial lolcows, another channel that I've really enjoyed watching is Canadian rapper Uncle Adams, who went $200,000 in debt trying to start a rap career. If you don't know who Uncle Adams is, you're missing out, and you've got a lot of catching up to do. In this regard, one of my other top channels in the creativity category was this person called Kurenai Mizuzu. Now, that's obviously not Uncle Adams, but again, if you've seen my lolcow video, you'll remember that I said Uncle Adams privated a lot of his videos, and therefore the only place you can now find them is on other channels where they've been archived. By the way, I have no idea who Entertain Me is. In fact, looking at their channel, they hardly have any videos, of which the only one I've watched even part of is this Beastie Boys album. So maybe that's just YouTube being broken. AI can make mistakes. Anyway, this leads on to the music section where things get really bizarre and borderline embarrassing. See, I have a Spotify, and as such, there's one primary reason why I would choose to listen to music on YouTube rather than on Spotify. Either because the music is so obscure that it doesn't even exist on Spotify, or because the music is so cringy that I don't want it interfering with my Spotify recommendations by me having listened to it. With that said, I do spend way more time on YouTube than Spotify, so sometimes if I just want to listen to a song because I enjoy it, rather than going to the effort of loading up Spotify, I will just look for it on YouTube. So I could have expected that at least some normal songs would have been my most popular on YouTube. But here are my top 5 songs that I listen to on YouTube. 2 of them are from the YouTuber Sans Beanstalk, who does comedic songs about British culture. Honestly, both those songs are pretty great, and I do listen to them a lot, so makes sense. My second favourite song was an anti-Zionist protest song by Jesse Wells. That definitely makes sense, as I think the song is really good, and I'm certainly happy to be supporting that sentiment in the algorithm. But the 2 remaining songs are songs not by Uncle Adams, but about Uncle Adams. Indeed, diss tracks against Uncle Adams. So yeah, my number 1 song on YouTube from all of 2025 was apparently I Suck Ass, Here's Why. And unsurprisingly, since it's my favorite song of 2025, I can now quote the lyrics verbatim. I've got beef with Mormon rappers, but I still ain't got no fans. I got beef with Bank of Canada, but still ain't got no bands. I woke up and showered, bitch, I'm still 200k in debt. In my 30s and a failure, and I still ain't humble yet. Pyramid Scheme is my girlfriend, she makes way more than I do. And I'm pay for all my listeners, but still ain't even blue. Got a needle dick that breaks my balls. My balls are fucking blue. My favorite song of 2025. A diss track referencing obscure lore directed at a Regina-based lolcow rapper. But it gets worse. I thought, man, you know what? I should listen to that song again, just for old time's sake. So I went to go find that song, and it has 225 views. My favorite song that I listened to the most in 2025 has 225 views in total. There is a distinct possibility that the majority of those views are from me. I think I need help. Anyway, with this said, I also had my Spotify Wrapped, which was comparatively normal, not that that's saying much. There weren't any huge surprises there. All of my favorite songs were just contemporary hip-hop. My 5 favorite songs were from JPEG Mafia, Ocean Wisdom, and Vince Staples. Oh, also, my 5th favorite song was from this really obscure rapper that I really, really like, but he sounds like this.
Make hard shit, you make first. That shit ass, that shit trash, that shit is booty, shit is really bad.
So, I mean, that might not be for everyone. Again, there is a caveat here. The main time that I listen to music is when I'm driving the car, but usually when I do that, I will put together a playlist and then my wife will play that on her phone so that I'm not getting distracted fiddling with the phone that I'm using for driving so that I can play music on it. Also, if my wife isn't with me, I'll just listen to the radio, and I always listen to BBC Radio 3, which is a classical music station. Point is that my Spotify is skewed towards my more eccentric tastes that only I will listen to. But do you know what's shocking? Considering everything you've just heard, what would you imagine my Spotify age is? I mean, all of my top songs are from the past decade, and most of the artists I really like are younger than me, and I'm not that old. So my Spotify listening age would be pretty young, right? It's 84. Clearly something's broken there. I think because I listened to some music from way back in the past, they had to come up with an average that doesn't really make much sense at all, considering how much contemporary music I listen to. I don't know, it seems to me pretty obvious that if someone listens to loads of experimental rap music, but also some oldies, they're most likely a young guy who also likes some oldies. And I can't imagine there are that many 84-year-olds whose favourite artists would be JPEG Mafia and Vince Staples. It's also interesting how committing to listening to an entire album can really throw things off. Like, I thought at some point last year, hey, I've never actually listened to Brat, even though it's really famous, everyone's talking about it, so I should just give that a listen. I didn't like it very much, but because I'm not in the habit of listening to entire albums from beginning to end, me listening to that one album one time was enough to make it one of my top albums of the year. You can also see this in Pink Floyd managing to make it as one of my top artists of the year just because I listened to 2 of their albums back to back one day in the summer when I was trying to get some work done. So just randomly at that point, they shoot up in terms of popularity, not because I listened to them very much at all, but I just happened to give those 2 albums a listen. In the end, my number 1 artist was Vince Staples, which makes sense because I recently did a Q&A on my main channel where someone asked what would be my favorite ever album, and I said, probably something from Vince Staples. Yeah, I really like him. I think he's the best artist around right now, and I will continue to religiously follow his work. Anyway, in conclusion, my YouTube viewing habits are pretty damn weird.
They want their uncle back. I've been up in your wife's pussy doing jumping jacks. Miss the old me, the 2018 flipping TVs with a drill bit. Yeah, where the fuck you at? I thought by now I'd be on big screens with that all I'm way behind me, with $1 million in my pocket and 1 million monthly listeners. But all I got is these nephews to remind me.